Episode 1.
Finally, we're kicking this off, and it's gonna be first one ever.
First one ever. Listen, we have to start talking about the Ripple, and it's not directly related to Ordinals, but maybe indirectly related.
It is.
Huge news. I think this is a case that everyone's been following for like, I don't know. I don't even know when it started, but well over a year for sure. And it's huge, not necessarily because people really care about Ripple that much, but because of the implications it could have on all the other assets. And maybe opening the floodgates of investment potentially towards other altcoins, towards shitcoins, with maybe the SEC unable to categorize everything as a security. So really, really big news, and it's being reflected in the charts right now.
Absolutely. Ripple is currently ripping 30% candle on the day, and it just broke out pretty much a very important structure. Earlier today, I was looking at this chart and I was like, we don't know what's going to happen with the SEC case, which we obviously know right now, but it was coiling up. It was coiling up, and you could definitely see this in the chart. And now it's a reality. We are pretty much breaking out of an accumulation range for Ripple, and all of crypto is following, because this is a huge win for crypto and a big loss for the SEC. And obviously, we don't know what's going to happen. Maybe this will turn bad very quickly, and it will be just an event, and everybody will forget in a week or so. But it's definitely giving hope right now to everybody, and I think this is good. It's good also for our JPEGs.
For sure. I'm actually looking at the chart right now. It's pretty insane. If you put the daily on, if you put the weekly on, it's all pretty ridiculous. The funny thing is, a friend of mine, actually, someone who just owns a little bit of crypto, doesn't follow these markets all day, he owns some XRP, and he messages me on like, and he lost money on FTX. And he's like, if this thing goes to like $2-3, I pretty much make all my money back from FTX. And he's asking me for advice, and I'm like, today's a pretty good day to sell.
Absolutely.
The candle just looks too ridiculous. There's going to be a lot of profit taking from these levels. But I don't think we can really underestimate the impact that a ruling like this could have. There's been a lot of discussion as to what the next cycle will look like, whether it will be similar to the previous cycles, bigger, smaller, just what it will look like. And I saw a tweet today, I think it was from Anson, I think his name is Z Anson or something, I forget on Twitter. And he said, like, we've never really seen what a cycle would look like with BlackRock just pouring money into the space, even if it's only towards the larger assets, but really supporting the space in general. And the SEC started beginning to actually lose monumental cases that will set precedent. And so, I don't know, man. This gets me pretty hopeful about what the next cycle will look like. There's going to be a lot of profit taking on this move. And I'll be watching it. I'm not really chasing it at all here. But I think it's a good time to actually start looking for setups and accumulation plays for the next cycle. Because the SEC just lost a lot of leverage in terms of what they can go after. They probably just spent a lot of money in this case. Absolutely. They don't have unlimited resources. I can only imagine what it cost them to prosecute this. And to lose, this is a huge loss. So this is a huge loss. Something to keep an eye on. And even though ordinals aren't directly related to this, this is just another instance of something else that can't be declared a security. And if they lose against this, I wonder if they'll be more hesitant to go against other projects, even NFT or ordinal projects in general.
I haven't looked at the NFT charts, ordinals charts more specifically, since the news, so we're gonna do this together. But honestly, the last bull cycle was pretty much a hype bull cycle on we're gonna get an ETF, and now we're actually much closer than we have ever been. And after all the bad news that we've seen the past year and a half, 2 years with the Terra Luna collapse and FTX and all the other bullshit that happened, now we have a consecutive very positive events, and if this doesn't drive price much higher, honestly, I don't know what will. And I really like this point that it's been for the past 6 months that there's a lot of fear on the market for altcoins, and the charts look like shit, and nobody wants to touch altcoins because there will be a security. Ethereum is going to zero because it's gonna be claimed the security. Nobody wanna touch it. And now this completely shifts. It might not be the case because obviously they are separate cases for the SEC to solve against Binance, against Coinbase, and who knows who they will chase. And as you say, they might not be so eager to chase them right now, but still these are unknown. But it kind of gets the whole community very hopeful. And I think now is the time to rip. I'm also not chasing any setups, but definitely I was looking earlier today at some charts. Even some dinosaur coins have some very good accumulation forming, and probably this is for another podcast, but it's looking good out there, to be honest. First time in a year or so that I've been very hopeful.
For sure. And maybe transitioning a little bit over into the Ordinals stuff, and I was actually taking a look at some BRC20s yesterday. I don't know if we were planning on talking about that, but
of course we are.
Some of these coins, the ones that actually seem to have a decent community and some development actually happening. I know, in my opinion, a lot of that stuff is just pure nonsense. I'm still not sure how it's going to work out, but there seems to be legitimate development happening on at least a few projects. Not every project's going to be a gnome.
Yes.
And some of these coins are actually picking up volume, whether it's Council, CNCL. It might get to like $500 today. I saw it was at 420. It was trading in the 200s just a week ago, I believe.
Yeah.
Oshi again, and I think these projects actually might be related with Oshi Pad, some sort of launch pad of sorts. And Track, which is a project that I've been getting shilled a lot lately that I don't own any of.
I've been shilling it to you too.
The moment that some of we're still missing a lot of tools for these projects. We need charts. I don't know, maybe someone might be working on those behind the scenes. Maybe someone we know. But the moment we actually start getting charts for this, we can actually start taking setups on coins on Bitcoin. So that's going to be fun. Because this whole thing is just the only thing that matters in this space is liquidity. Where's liquidity moving to, and where's it going to be? Where is it at right now? Where is it going to be next? And we already know that BRC's captured liquidity a few months ago when they had their initial move, maybe during the Miami conference. And I wonder if there's a rotation that's happening right now that could get a little stronger in the next few weeks with BRCs.
It makes total sense, and actually Gate.io is listing some BRCs, not all of them, but I just pulled up a chart on Track on Gate.io, and if you look at it, first of all, this thing trades very clean. So there are a lot of algorithms and a lot of people already trading regular crypto, especially Bitcoin and Ethereum. We've discussed before that it's getting really hard to trade this consistently, especially in the lower time frames because of all the wicks and so on. But these things are trading very cleanly. Like Track specifically had a very clean breakout from accumulation. I was talking to you about this at around 10 cents, and the few hours later it just exploded to 30-40 cents. I have regrets about this, but we're not gonna spend the time complaining. But now it looks like it's reaccumulating. It had a little bit of a dump to 23, 24 on Gate. Keep in mind, guys, that the prices are different what you're gonna see on Unisat and also on Gates. That's why we're really interested in having charts, proper charts, like we do for all the other shitcoins. But these things are trading very cleanly for now, and I like Track. I like OXBT, which, by the way, in just a few hours, I saw that there will be some announcement.
No, they already, I believe, you can double check this, but I believe they postponed it for Saturday.
Oh, okay.
But double check on that because I'm not certain. But I think they postponed it. They moved it to Saturday.
I saw
a couple things on these charts. One thing I like about the entire ordinal space and BRCs and just general ordinals trading is that it's just way less sophisticated. the traders who have kind of become somewhat professional over the past few years, whether it's because they've been involved with in crypto for like 2-3 years, or even multiple cycles up to like 6-7 years, they get significantly better, and they also become less moon boys. They start selling resistance, they start buying support. Every little move is sold off quicker. Every dump is bought back generally earlier, and when things really dump, they get sold off for good. There's a lot of bag holders of those assets, so it's very hard to just have another follow through cycle on a lot of these assets that have been around for 3-4 years, and with a lot of holders that are underwater. And you don't see that in BRC20s. You don't see that in Ordinals in general. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people who have taken losses, but there's just not a lot of them. There's some people who have taken losses, but there's not so many that it really acts as a barrier for follow-up moves. And the fact that there isn't a lot of tools, there isn't a lot of charts that you can start drawing fibs on and lines and all sorts of like indicators indicating oversold and all that stuff. The fact that it doesn't exist makes these charts trade so much cleaner. If you're just even able to eyeball the moves, you'll see moves happen, breakdowns and breakouts happen in a much cleaner fashion. They're much easier to identify. And until these markets become so much more sophisticated, we're going to continue to see that. So the tools coming out for this kind of stuff is just, it's going to be great. And one other thing, I know we're looking at Gate.io because I think they're the only exchange that's added some of these Ordinals-based coins, the BRCs. I'm not even sure how this works, how they're accepting deposits. I guess you should be able to simply send them your Ordinal and have a deposit. And it should work relatively simply, but there are rumors that like some of this stuff that's being traded on their exchange isn't real. Like they're not actually holding all of these BRC20s.
I think it's quite possible.
It's definitely possible. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm usually when I accumulate BRCs, I do have some Ordi. I sold some track that I had. But I have Conso, the CNCL token. I have some OXBT, but I do hold all of them in my wallet. I bought them on Unisat, and I'm just holding them. And I think this is the best move for now. Obviously, as I mentioned, there are differences in prices, but we don't know if exchanges will find a good solution for them, for example, to transfer in and out. Because, yeah, the liquidity might be on the central exchanges, but right now I'm just looking at Ordi. And on Unisat, the price is at $8.10 and $8.10. And on Gate is at $7.4 almost. So there's a huge difference here. Yeah. And yeah, it's not clear how this is going to play out. This is how new the space is. Shall we?
But another thing I just thought of before we kind of close this BRC20 discussion. I think a lot of these exchanges just like, are going to follow the game plan that happened in the Ethereum markets and basically in the altcoin markets over the past few years, and look for ways to try to retain users, kind of vampire attacks against their competitors. And they can do this by launching their own coins. Now, I know that like Unisat hasn't launched theirs. If they ever do, I don't think, or whether it's even OrdSwap, one of these, the first exchanges, or Ordinals wallet, and I doubt Magic Eden does it, but it would not surprise me if one of these exchanges actually goes through with it. I can't really say which one will be first. Would not surprise me if it was, I guess, Unisat, given that they have those Unisat points up still, and I don't think they've actually referenced a coin launch, but it would not surprise me, and it's something I'm taking into consideration, especially given the ruling today on XRP. Yeah. I just think this could open the floodgates on a lot of this stuff, even if it's not directly applicable. Even if it's like, well, the XRP ruling is this and might not apply to these businesses. I think there's going to be, the fog of war is going to take over the crypto space, and a lot of projects are just going to look at this like a green light to do a lot of degen stuff. that was going on in the past few years. So it's something to consider for sure.
100%. I'm very excited, to be honest, because this is very new, and even in the past just few weeks, there's been so much development in the space, and we really don't know what's going to happen, but it's good that we're that early, and we will pretty much see how the whole thing will develop, and if it's actually going to happen something big, or if we're going to have liquidity similar to altcoins on BRCs, or maybe it just dies off, because the entire crypto market is ripping right now, and all the BRCs on Gate are down on average like 10 to 20%. So we'll see how the dynamics play out in general. But let's look at some JPEGs, and let's look at the market. Maybe let me just have a quick overview on the dashboard, on the Ordinals Marketplace's dashboard on June, which I believe it's a great tool for everyone that wants to get involved and just want to see what's happening. And probably we should discuss also what's happening with the volume on OKX, because in the past few days, and I would say even weeks, it's been climbing significantly. On the chart here you can see that after the initial pump of the volume in May, now we are pretty much accumulating, and the volume is back at certain lows that we had if we exclude OKX volume, because it's a bit weird what's going on there. And I think this definitely looks like an accumulation.
Let's talk about OKX for a second. Let's just tell people why it's weird. So if you go on the Dune Analytics, I believe it's called the Domo dashboard, like the user that actually created this dashboard.
Yes.
DOMO, if anyone wants to find it. If you go there, you can look at the volume by marketplace in one chart, and in a chart right next to it, you can look at the transactions by marketplace. And if you just go look at volume, it looks as if OKX is just starting to dominate volume, as if it's the number one exchange in all of Ordinals. Like it's like it's multiples bigger than all the other ones combined. And I don't know anyone that actually uses it, right? Mm-hmm. And the reason that it just seems fake, and it almost certainly is, in my opinion, is because if you go look at the transactions by marketplace, OKX makes up a tiny amount, maybe like 5 to 10%, 5%. I don't know. I'd have to look at the exact amount I'm looking at on the chart.
Yeah, it's
and
probably
so
even less
that
than
just
5%.
leads me to believe that it's a lot of wash trading. If you go on their exchange, you're going to see a lot of prices that don't necessarily make sense. I'm not going to attribute malicious intent right now, because it's possible that they are attributing, someone was mentioning this on Twitter, that they have a bug in terms of how they're reporting volume, and they're attributing certain very large transactions to Ordinals that may be in transactions that aren't really connected on the blockchain. And so we'll see how that plays out, but the statistics are very weird, and we can't really trust them right now.
I just opened a specific case that we were looking at earlier, and that's a Bitcoin frog number 2027, and this one on Magic Eden, it just sold yesterday for like 0.04, let's say, Bitcoin. And then on OKX, there are a bunch of transactions that are claiming to be happening there in the last few days of this month. Even we had one yesterday, pretty much the same day that it got bought up on Magic Eden, and the numbers don't exactly add up. The transactions on one exchange that happened and the transactions on the other exchange that happened a few days ago don't exactly match up. So there's definitely something going on that I don't personally 100% understand. I could definitely see that this could be a bug of some sort. And it's going to be very interesting to... Oopsie, my mic, sorry. It's going to be very interesting to see what exactly is this. Is it wash trading? Is it some kind of manipulation on purpose? Or maybe it's just a bug?
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out, man. But looking at these analytics, and I think it's just to take a quick look at them, we can't really consider the volume ones very seriously because of this OKX thing. But if we look at transactions, Ordinals seem to be setting up a nice higher low here, up from the big spikes we had during Bitcoin Miami and a few very specific launches that just absolutely, I think it was like the Bitcoin Bears launch, and then the recent ones with regards to OMB control some of these. Ordinals seems to very clearly be setting up like a higher baseline of just like a volume. And that's what you want to see. That's generally what you want to see in a market. That isn't just a fad, something that's going to last a little longer and that's going to be around. Speaking.
Greg, you here? I lost you. Yeah, definitely just to piggyback on what Greg said until we get him back online. Definitely this is a higher low compared to this area right here. And definitely we're seeing some consistency besides this monster candle that we had on the day, which was July 5th, with the couple of big mints that we had. I think we're seeing very positive developments. And one more thing on this dashboard that we would like to look at is the unique users by marketplace. And as you can see, this number was parabolic and now it's kind of still setting higher highs, higher lows here. But I just use this as a general indicator. The numbers have been increasing. We're at record highs currently. But just between me and Greg, we have like a bunch of wallets. So I wouldn't just blindly say that, this is 100%, metric that I will follow, but we all want to see growth on this. Let me just invite Greg back. Hey man, we lost you for a second.
Hello?
Yeah, can hear you now.
Okay, I'm back. Yeah, so I keep going. I was listening to what you were saying.
Yeah, so I was just saying that we want to see growth in unique users, but I think the primary indicator is the volume, because we all have a bunch of wallets, and this doesn't mean that there are new users on the market. They're just new wallets created. And I don't think there's a proper metric on the Bitcoin network or in general or any blockchain to measure the actual users and not the wallets interactions. And yeah, that's just what I wanted to see, and maybe we can move on from this topic specific on the overall market.
Let's take a look at some of the projects that are actually kind of leading right now in volume. So if we go to Magic Eden, OMB, Ordinal Maxi Biz, is still number one, and it's been that way for a while on the 24-hour volume chart, and I think on the weekly and all that stuff.
Yes.
It's certainly dropping in price right now. I think it's having a slow sell-off. It might be related to the Little Peepo's launch, which I think was announced yesterday, and it will be on July 18th, I believe, and with a mint price of 0.12. And it would not surprise me if people were selling off their OMBs, some people, to be able to have enough money for that mint.
Yeah.
It's hard to find correlation there, or until we'll see if this lasts leading up to the mint. But that could definitely be a reason. This is a project I've been monitoring very closely, and if it dumps just a little more, I'll probably be adding to my bags here, because OMB to me is kind of solidifying itself as a project that's going to be around in this space for the long run. And the founders have kind of already made a name for themselves as some of the preeminent kind of artists or community, project creators in the space. So I'm definitely keeping a close eye on this. Hopefully we get some people capitulating and I'm able to scoop some up for relatively cheap.
100%. I'm also watching this closely. I see that the volume has slowed down. Not only the floor has been crashing, but there's just one sale in the last 10 or 20 hours. A couple of sales. Okay, one of them is higher than the floor, which is always good to see in a collection. But definitely this has been slowing down. What we might start seeing here, something that I was noticing back in the ETH NFT days when they were pumping like crazy, and when Ethereum was in a correction mode, there was some negative relation between the price of Ethereum and the price of the NFT. So what we might be seeing here, I don't think we've had this before because the space is so new, but maybe some people are selling off their NFTs, or more actually their ordinals here, because Bitcoin potentially is going to go much higher and they would prefer to stick to Bitcoin. So we might see this kind of correlation happening also. But I also wouldn't mind to scoop up some OMBs at the 0.2 area, somewhere around there.
Yeah, totally agree, man. I mean, listen, this is something that happens consistently. People get excited about a project. They ape in. They don't see an announcement. When announcement becomes a meme.
Yeah.
For a few days, some other shiny new object, a shiny new mint comes up, and people get impatient. There's also a lot of people that just, with portfolios that just aren't that large. So holding an ordinal that's worth 0.23 to 0.3, which is nearly 10K, a little less. It's anywhere between like $7,000 and $10,000, can be pretty expensive for them. So we're definitely going to see some people capitulating, and that usually gives us better entries on the projects that we are bullish on for the long term. OMB is one. Control is another one that's going through some of the same kind of growing pains, but I think we're generally bullish on it as well. I'm trying to see Frogs had a nice move. Frogs, the OG project.
Yes.
They dumped really hard, which is kind of normal because these people forget, man, these were trading at like $30 or like $15 and they moved up to like 0.16 to 0.18 Bitcoin. And so they got sold off big time, as would have been expected. But we're seeing some buyback on them. And I think we're seeing pretty healthy price action on these, man.
Yeah, they definitely seem like they've been accumulating. Again, there's only one place that people could find good charts on Ordinals right now, and that is Ordinals Hub. And I hope we see more tools like this in the future. But just a quick stare at the chart there, and you'll see that's pretty much like 0.03 was acting like some resistance, and this was for the past few weeks. And overall, we've been consolidating around 0.025 and 0.035 or something like this. And now that we're again back above these levels, I think if we stabilize above them, this could definitely trigger another move higher as we are moving towards more a risk-on environment. Of course, if the crypto pump continues, but even if it doesn't, as we said, there might be some negative relationship between the price of Bitcoin and the JPEG. So that would be an interesting thing to follow. But I really like the frogs, to be honest. This is probably the best community in the business, at least for now. And yeah, definitely bullish long term here on them.
Yeah, and it's interesting that this is one of the few 10K collections that actually ripped very hard. It needed a distribution phase before a subsequent move up. There was too many people holding, 20. I know people who had 30 to 50 to even 60 frogs. So it needed a distribution phase where people took profit, the holder base was turned over, and we have people who've entered now who didn't, buy at like $10, who have now a lower, I guess a higher cost base, ready for the next move up, right? And so this is normal. I know you've been accumulating some Frogsy. I've added a couple, not as many as you at these levels, but I've been holding since lower, and I'm not planning on really selling these anytime soon. My plan for most of these long-term holds is to wait for all-time high volume and then take profit on the way up. I'm not going to top tick anything. And on the projects that I really love, I might hold a few for long term because
for sure, for
sure, I like the art.
I think this is probably long term the better strategy because there will be a lot of flippers. I've seen a lot of people from Solana moving to Ordinals, and they just have a flipper mentality, and we see this with every launch. Like recently, Orbitals, I think, was the one project that launched yesterday or 2 days ago, and there were a lot of flippers, trying to really quickly make some profit on this and just forget about it. But I think this ecosystem will not favor flippers, and especially with the stress that you have to go through in some of these projects. You should invest a lot of money, to buy it. And I do think that patience and long-term coming in a volume will be really rewarded here. Yeah, you can make some quick bucks, but again, you suffer a lot from stress and there will be losses on the way. And if you just focus on a few good collections that have long-term potential, which we already mentioned quite a few of them, I think it will be the much lower stress, better strategy long-term.
I agree. We did get a pretty strong sell-off in ETH NFTs. There was some FUD regarding, I think, Azuki's led to one of the hardest sell-offs we've seen in that space. And I think it got a lot of people into thinking that NFTs are dead, that no one's going to be buying JPEGs on the blockchain anytime soon. And I think this is a mistake in general. These are just digital collectibles, and ETH is a little different in that it already had a cycle. There's a lot of bag holders, but that doesn't mean new projects won't. Special is that they are.
Greg, you're breaking up again.
But these are virgin markets essentially that are still developing. They're not very sophisticated, and we don't have this kind of hangover of a lot of people that are sitting on huge losses just waiting to dump on every move up. So when liquidity does come into this space, we could see some pretty violent move upwards. And I think flippers, they might be getting, they might be making a little money right now going for every hot mint and then flipping it for, if they're lucky, they can get a double, which is great. If not, on some mints, I've seen people trying to take $100 profit. And, that's a discussion for everyone to have with themselves based off the size. But I think they're going to long-term holders of quality projects.
Yeah, 100%.
Go and have great. At the end of the
you're breaking up.
There's some that are
Can you hear us? We've lost Greg again. He's reconnecting. Anyway, just to summarize the point, because maybe you didn't hear it all, but yeah, long-term holders, I think generally will outperform. So just be aware of this whenever you're trying to flip your way into some small profits. Yeah, of course, there are people that make money like this. Hey, Greg, you're back?
Okay, I'm back. For some reason, it's been kicking me off every 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, you've been breaking up before that, so probably there's something with the connection there.
All right, but essentially, I was just saying, these markets are really primed to have a move if liquidity ever really enters the space, and I don't see why they wouldn't. There's going to be a lot of upcoming catalysts coming, and the more bullish that the general crypto space gets, the better it's going to be for Ordinals as people look for the new stuff and don't want to be holding all of the shit that pumped last cycle. And so it's going to be good for us.
100%. I want to get your thoughts on Nullish. It's one of the better artists in the space, and something interesting happened today. His collection, was it the final pattern? Increased the supply pretty much double, and currently we're seeing a sell-off, and specifically in the final pattern, quite a significant sell-off.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, he has quite a bit of collections already, also on Ethereum and here on Ordinals. And I think it might not be a terrible time to start accumulating some Nullish, because just looking at the recent sales, so the final pattern just a day or so ago was selling for 0.014, and currently there are listings for 0.009. So already quite a significant discount, and it makes sense with the increased supply. However, knowing this guy and what he does, and for example how he distributed whitelists for OMB, which is pretty much the biggest mint we ever had until now, I think it wouldn't be a terrible moment to start accumulating some of his older collections, especially on Ethereum, because he puts a lot of emphasis on these for any kind of whitelists. And it's been rumored that he's collecting rare sats for a new collection. I don't have the source right now in front of me, but Yeah, definitely long term, I think he will be one of the established artists. And it's a relatively good bet right now, in my opinion.
I agree. I'm still holding some of these, not the final patterns. I I sold those off. I sold one of those that I had extra because I bought it in order to get a whitelist for the green eyes. And I had an extra one because we didn't really know what the green eyes requirements were going to be up until like right before it happened. And so I sold it off, and then the one after the green eyes mint, I also sold that off at a loss, simply because I knew that this new supply was going to come online. So I sold it like at 0.02, I believe. And this is one that for sure I'm going to be looking to accumulate. That said, I want this to go to like, I don't know, 0.005, and there be a lot of listings at those price. Right now, it's, so I don't know, maybe like 40% down from where it is right now. This is just a very large supply collection in general, and it's hard for those to maintain price, especially a lot of people who just got this airdropped, and they look at it as free money, and so
Absolutely.
it's one to keep an eye on, but I wouldn't be buying in just yet. I want more capitulation.
I agree. The
He's
listings.
got another project, Oblivion. Oblivion by Nullish has actually been holding up, and people have been buying it. If you go to activity, like it's just had a bunch of buys over the past like week.
Yeah.
It's moved up a little.
It's been
It's
a good
actually
trade, actually, this one. There's been some 0.09 sales in the 8s also. And now it's currently at 0.13. So if you're a trader, not a ton of volume on those, but still, even for a long-term hold, I think this was one of the requirements also for the OMB whitelist. Was that correct?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it was. It got up to like 0.2, I believe. And so it is down from that, but it's not down as nearly as much as the final pattern for sure. And I'm sure Knowledge has some tricks up his sleeve, some other stuff that he's going to release in the coming months. People just need to let these projects breathe, man. Like it's like they think they're investing in like a company.
Yeah. We lost Greg again.
What? You can't hear me anymore?
Ah, he's back. Greg, I might have to send you some cable for the internet, to make sure we have you online.
Yeah, I might have to get that fixed. I wish I could do this on my desktop. It's on my phone.
I will show you how in a separate call. Maybe it's actually a hack for everyone that's doing spaces, but there's a way to do it. Any collection that gets you excited? Maybe that hasn't minted yet, or it's really low key right now?
Well, the one that's been kind of taking up everyone's attention is Pipos by Inscribed Pepes. The Little Pipos, I think it's called. That whitelist somehow. There's no real way other than kind of interacting in the community.
Greg is gone again. Maybe it's a pattern. So yeah,
very in-demand project. They just announced their mint date, which is going to be, I think, next Tuesday, I believe. Could be wrong, somewhere around there, that time. And the mint price is 0.12, which is kind of interesting, given the kind of the negative sentiment around these high-valued mints that happened during the green eyes and the control mints. And even, we saw what happened to what's it called? Satoshi and Finney's Curious Collection.
Yeah. It went to
We
Oblivion.
saw what happened to that project because of the mint price. They were forced to lower it, and even then, it was a complete disaster. Now, I don't think that's going to happen to the Pipos. I think it's going to do quite well. It's going to mint out, but it's just something to consider. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Absolutely. It's been, honestly, one of the most hyped projects, at
Z,
least.
are you there?
Yeah. Do you hear me?
All right, one sec.
So yeah, this Little Peoples has been one of the most hyped, definitely, collections. I would love to get a piece, but they've been distributing them privately. The collection is already inscribed. They have a lot of things going on for full mint out. There are a lot of respectable people that got whitelisted for this, and a lot of people that are in their community, even if they don't hold the OG inscribed Pepe collection, which are really an OG. They're really, really early into this, and I can definitely see the argument that they will mint out even at this level. But yeah, we gotta see, because the market is it's tricky right now. Let me just find the OG collection.
It's definitely in a tricky spot, man. There's not a ton of liquidity right now, and so I believe I think the People's supply is around 400, maybe 500, somewhere like that.
I think it's 404. Let me see. They're
So
already on Magic Eden, so
that's like nearly 50 Bitcoin that they want to raise. That 50 Bitcoin is going to have to come from somewhere, and it's probably not all going to be from new Bitcoin into the market. Some other stuff is going to get sold off, and again, that's going back to OMB. That's why it's one of the main projects I'm looking at right now. As people sell these off to buy the Peoples, it might give me just the entry I've been waiting for the past few weeks.
It makes sense. I think this collection is definitely really hyped, and people would want to get a piece of it. And as you said, with such a low liquidity in general, people will try to scrape some money to be able to mint this, and probably they're selling other projects, which will be great for us to, fill our bags.
Exactly. I think patience is going to be rewarded right now, not going after every mint, because right now everything's getting flipped, sold off. Just being patient, identifying long-term projects that you like, and really being selective with new mints. There's a new project I don't know much about. Maybe you have research that you can tell me a little bit about it. I don't know. It's called Node Monks, I believe. Node Monks. I noticed it because Swapsky and I believe BitGod both have their profile picture as one of these, and I haven't heard much about it. I tried to join the Discord, because I don't even think they have a chat open, or certainly I wasn't able to access it. And I think the website is also password protected. So I wonder if this is one of these new mints that we should be paying attention to.
It came on my radar actually today. There are a lot of people talking about it, and honestly, I haven't really done a deep dive. But honestly, also with Ordinals, it's really hard to do a deep dive. I think it's just more like of a feel that you can get for the community and for the founder, and if they seem legit, because we all kind of agree that these are really speculative JPEGs and we shouldn't expect any utility or anything. So the initial wave of these new mints, and they do have some things going for them, but they're all like very risky, and there's a lot of speculation going on. And pretty much, as you just mentioned, we're betting on some of the players in the space to be shilling in a way or talking about this, and this will give us a better chance to pump our backs, on this project. But in reality, they're all just really very, very high risk JPEGs. Maybe you like the art and so on, but yeah, this one definitely sparks my interest. They're much lower inscription than most 10K collections I've seen. So it will be interesting. I'll definitely be monitoring them in the near future.
Yeah, same, man. Listen, outside of like new and upcoming mints, I'm looking at that one. I'm going to start really researching it. I've only found it a few days ago. I'm looking at that. Let me see if there's anything else I've been looking at. Taproot Wizards, obviously, that's the one that kind of got this whole thing started. We don't know much about it. It seems like every time there's a Taproot Wizards Spaces, we get rugged on any sort of new announcement or information about the project. So that's a little annoying, but it's the project that got this whole thing started. It's the most well-known one, even outside of the small Ordinals community. It's the one that Kobe put out as his PFP. I think Arthur Hayes used it, and a few other people who don't seem to be all.
Somebody called Greg. Maybe it's the Taproot Wizards with a whitelist. Did they call you? Do you get the whitelist?
No, that was someone else who maybe should have been on this call. So that's a project that I'm really keeping a close eye on and I'm trying to get any sort of information that I can out of it to possibly. I have a white list for it, but it's one that I want to own more than one. So I'm going to be very attentive to anything that comes.
100%. This for me, I would say right now is probably the biggest project on Ordinals. I know it's a big statement because we have OMB and we have some OGs that are already launched, but I've been looking in the ort.io and there's some early inscriptions or rare inscriptions also of projects that haven't been launched yet, and there's no information who's behind this project. However, this is a very well-known project that hasn't launched. They've been smart about it. They wait for the volume, I'm guessing, to come in. They've been building silently. They've been building a community, and if people kind of like it, maybe they came for the money, but if they like it and they see a value and this continues for a few months, the community is formed, you form relationships and so on. So you're more likely to stick around with it. And they're really early inscriptions, some of the real OGs in the space, pretty much some of the creators of this whole entire space. So for me, I also would like to have some exposure. Maybe I have a secret strategy to get a whitelist. We'll see. Maybe I'll just pray to God not to launch at 1 or 2 Bitcoin. But definitely I think this is the one to monitor in the future. Even if you just miss all the other new mints that are coming out, this is the one that people really need to be paying attention to.
Yeah, for sure. The only other one that kind of comes to mind is a project called Shadow Hats, I believe. Another one that seems to be, pretty hyped. I believe it's one of these that's like a sub 1K or sub 10K mint. I don't remember inscription. Sorry, I don't remember the exact inscription numbers, but there's only a few out already, and they're all very low inscriptions. So I'm still not sure how to really participate in those and how to be able to get a whitelist, how to be able to buy one. But those are some that I'm keeping an eye on.
Yeah, this is also one that came on my radar a week or two ago. I definitely dismissed it the first time just because of what you said. It's not really clear what this is or what's going to happen. And honestly, I don't always get good vibes with projects like this. Maybe I'm completely wrong and I'm ridiculous for not looking into this more seriously. But yeah, they're just little things that don't give me great vibes. But I will definitely also be keeping an eye just because of the historical value of this. And I think in the future, that's something that people need to kind of keep in mind, that probably there will be a lot more projects that have early inscriptions but still haven't launched and nobody knows about them. And suddenly in, 6 months, we'll have a bunch of collections with much lower inscription numbers. And it will be interesting to see who will make it at the end of this. And for me, I don't know what you think, but community will be always the primary driver, and then it might be art or early historical value and so on and so on. But the community for me will be the one thing that I will always be watching in these collections.
Yeah, community drives everything, man. Everything. At the end of the day, all these project founders should be trying to filter out for flippers. They essentially should want people that are just going to hold their stuff longer term. The founders don't owe us anything. There's ultimately fewer of them, and there's more people that want to participate still. And so when they make us jump through some hoops to be a part of a community, to get access, I think it's all warranted, and I think it's perfectly fine. I know. There's definitely people who don't like it, have to make a video or whatever, but to me, it's all about signaling your intent with regards to a project, whether you're just someone who wants to flip it day one or be a part of a community for longer term.
Absolutely. Look who showed up. Anon, hello.
Hello,
Zero.
hello. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd just
How's it
like to
going,
add
brother?
to that my my very early on in the ordinals my ordinals journey, my thesis has always kind of been that as the market matures, I think inscription numbers are going to matter less and less. And I only say that because it hasn't really mattered that much in any other NFT market. I mean, there might be some, definitely probably will be some projects, like you could look at kind of CryptoPunks as the example, where that probably got some points for being early or like an old NFT. But beyond that, there weren't many that stuck around. And I just, I mean, don't really see why Ordinals would be any different. I mean, I get it's the inscription number, like it, because that's such an integral part of like how the Ordinals protocol works. But I just, a market's a market and money's money. And when, you know, new people come in, I just don't see them caring quite as much about that as we move forward. I mean, I could be wrong, but it kind of seems like that's already playing out a bit, um, you know, even now. So
We'll see. It's definitely something to monitor. I think, it's an open market. It's the definition of a free market, these JPEGs. And I'm guessing that the people will be finally deciding what has value and what doesn't. Might be rare sats, might be, who knows, pizza sats, might be, early inscriptions, might be a community. We'll see. Definitely, it's exciting because we really don't know what's going to happen. We could be just speculating here. But we are here to witness it, basically.
We already spoke about some of this at the beginning of the episode, but maybe Zero, you can give us your opinion. How do you think the Ripple announcement today is gonna? Do you think it has any impact on Ordinals or just general crypto space stuff, but not really a direct impact?
um, I maybe not a direct impact. I Most ordinals are like so far into. I mean, ordinals are so far into the risk curve. Like, if the SEC wanted to come after ordinals, it would take them probably like 6 years to even like bring up a case. So, I mean, I always kind of assumed it was pretty well safe from that in the short term, but I think it can definitely drive Bitcoin higher, and crypto higher. And as Bitcoin goes higher and then consolidates, people are going to look to leverage those gains into things like ordinals. So I think it's generally bullish for ordinals if it can drive Bitcoin's price higher overall.
I think we all need just a popular person. So if Gary Vee is listening to this, just start tweeting about Ordinals, and we are all going to make it.
I don't think he's listening. I don't see him in here. I see Chris. Big ups to Chris. What's up, Chris?
Yo, Chris.
How's it going, man? So, I guess kind of before we wrap this up, we were talking about some of the upcoming projects. There really aren't that many. We mentioned Taproot Wizards, obviously. We mentioned this new one that kind of popped up on our radar called Node Monks that we're just now starting to look into. Peepo's Mint is next week. Is there anything else that you guys can think of?
There's an interesting project that's currently doing auctions right now, and it's called Oracles. And I like it. I think it's a pretty cool project. It's essentially, I mean, I haven't done too big of a deep dive in it, but it's essentially like an art collective. It's the same general design. Like the art is like these like little block-headed people with their arms folded, like a cartoonish character. But
Okay,
they're all
I just
done by
found it. Huh.
yeah, they're all done by different artists, and they've been auctioning them off. And it was pretty unnoticed on the first couple auctions, but now they've had their third or fourth one, and the price of the auctions keeps settling higher. They're on Block 9 Sats. And if you read into it, it's kind of a cool idea. I mean, that one's probably not as hyped as like Peepos or Taproot Wizards, but it's that's other than that. I mean, the ones you guys have mentioned in that project, I'm really not that interested in anything unless there's something that hasn't been announced yet that might interest me. But
These do look kind of cool. What have been what has the price been for these? You know, in the auctions, I'm guessing they're descending auctions or Dutch auctions or something. Where
I don't know I don't know the process because I don't really do the auction thing typically, but they were the first sale was like point oh 0.08, I think, and they just did another one, and it ended up.
Yo, Mike, can you have your mic a little bit closer?
Yeah, hang on a second. Sorry. Is that better?
Yeah, perfect.
It was the first couple, one or two auctions, I think they got 0.08 or 0.09 for the final bid. And then, but the last one that just settled at 0.14. And there's no difference really, and just the differences in the art. There's nothing like more special about that one. So that would show to me that like interest is growing. But 0.14 is pretty expensive. There's 300 of them, I think 333 supply.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the recent auction that it's still going on. It ends in like 54 minutes and the top bid is at 0.1. Okay, this one might not be the most pretty one, but still quite a high bid.
That's this one's kind of ugly, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I don't really
not
like
my
this
favorite one.
No, I'll wait for the next one.
Yeah, I love the art on these, honestly. I've looked into them quite a few times and I just like the art. This is something that I would put on a wall or for a profile pic. But we gotta see like how we get access besides the auctions, because if they do it like if they sell out all of them one by one in auctions, that's great for the creator. But for us as speculators and people that just want to buy and hold something for the long run, I think it will be difficult to get into.
I do believe that they are not going to auction off all of them. I think that, from my understanding, there will be a launch. It will be publicly launched. I'm not sure how they're allocating that yet, but I don't think they're going to do all 333 like that. They're probably just trying to squeeze as much juice out of the funding as they can, I would imagine.
But that will also really suck for the people, because let's say they have a mint price of 0.05 or whatever, and people already bought on an auction triple that. And they're in a pickle, in a very tricky situation right now.
Yeah, typically you can only do auctions like that if there's something special about the ones that you're auctioning, and that might be the case. I don't know. It might be that maybe these artists are more well known than the others. It could be why. I haven't really, or maybe these are like 1-to-1 pieces and the rest of them are more generic. I'm not sure, so I don't really want to speculate because I could be wrong about that.
All of them are unique. I think they're all done by different artists, to be honest. I have to double check this, but pretty much every single JPEG is different from the other, except for the square head and the crossed arms.
Yeah, maybe it's the artist. Maybe they're maybe the ones they're auctioning are more renowned in some way. You have to look into it.
Yeah, might be.
Wasn't there an ETH project like Nons or Nounce or something that did something similar to this?
Yeah, Nouns DAO. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
The bids on those were like 200 grand, I think, or something crazy, hundreds of ETH.
I wonder where they're at now.
31 ETH, if that's the collection that it's supply 777.
Oh, the Nouns DAO I think are still going. I think. Let me see.
Okay, they're not on OpenSea then, or are they?
Yeah, they're still going, and there's actually an auction right now, and the current bid is nearly 32 ETH. So these are still getting sold for pretty high amounts.
Crazy.
So cool, what do we think Bitcoin's going to fake out right now? What are we thinking here?
Honestly,
let me open the chart.
If this doesn't make us rip, I don't know what will, in the short term at least.
I went long on leverage, so it's definitely going to dump, for sure.
Okay, so good to know not to buy anything right now.
Yeah, didn't it take you like 3 hours to get your transaction in?
Mike, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm just driving in my car, so I'm Like when I'm not speaking, I'm just hitting the mute button so you don't hear the background noise.
Oh, okay. I thought you wanted to say something. I don't know. I definitely could see this, just be a non-event. We'll see. Because technically speaking, what exactly happened? The Ripple, they just won a case, and okay, but this is not directly related to all the other crypto cases that are going on and all the other altcoins. Maybe there's, but this is like for me trying to be objective and presenting the bear case here, because we already thought that this is really bullish.
I would say the counterpoint to that, from at least knowing the U.S. legal system, because this is where I live, but this is like hugely impactful for altcoins. Not probably Bitcoin so much, but this case sets precedent. It will become much harder for the SEC to prove that really much of any crypto at this point is a security, because Ripple was so obviously doing things that were security-like. I can't even say it's obviously a security, which is what I've been saying, because apparently it's not. But I think if all you need is some money and a good lawyer, which a lot of crypto projects don't have. A lot of them aren't funded like Ripple's funded. They obviously had a war chest, but it's going to be very difficult for for them to go after and actually get securities violations on any well-funded project if they can't get Ripple, because they are far more centralized. They sell assets on the market to people. They control the supply. It's a funding mechanism. It really kind of hits all and I don't know the details of the case and how they won per se, but it's precedent. So any court case sets precedent for the next case, and that's how it works here. So like if the SEC had won, that would have been very bad for altcoins in general, because they can refer to that and judges and juries will refer to that case in any future case. And this case setting precedent that that's not a security will make it exponentially more difficult for the SEC to do that. So it's really bullish. And what's interesting to me is that coins that were down a lot, that specifically the ones named in the Coinbase and Binance allegation, like Matic and Solana, those ones are up a lot. Those ones are up like significantly more than most of the market. Probably
Solana's up nearly 20% today.
Matic too.
Yeah, Matic and Solana and a bunch of other ADA. A lot of those were they're being essentially labeled as securities in the SEC's case against Coinbase, like directly labeled in the filing. But it's going to be very hard for them to prove that now, with this precedent set from the Ripple case. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so don't listen to anything I say. I'm a fucking idiot. But that's what I would kind of consider about why this is a bigger deal than just for Ripple, and why I've been rooting for them to win, even though I don't like Ripple, is because it sets a precedent that's going to make it's going to be a roadblock in the SEC's path for trying to say that everything's a security at this point.
I mean, Coinbase and Binance would probably have to be popping champagne bottles right now. I know those cases are different. There's some different aspects to each of those. But in general, I mean, they have to be celebrating, because this is a huge blow. I don't know if this can be understated, unless there's something about this case that we don't realize.
Anybody there?
And I'm sure there's going to be podcasts.
We hear you, Mike.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. That's kind of my thoughts on it. I mean, but it doesn't really impact Bitcoin directly, because I would assume that Bitcoin is kind of out of the crosshairs a little bit, because just the SEC is not targeting them, and they've kind of already kind of been chewed into it's a commodity role. But I mean, I definitely think it gives people more of a risk on appetite for altcoins potentially. But who knows? I mean, it's going to take the Coinbase thing a long time to work itself out, and all that stuff is going to take a long time to work itself out.
For sure.
So we'll see how it all plays out, but it definitely seems like a very positive piece of news for the industry and a general victory for crypto.
Technically, the new cases that we have against Binance and Coinbase could take same time as Ripple, which pretty much is a bull market. 2 years is enough to have a bull market before we get these, resolved. So we'll see.
Yeah, very true. And the other thing too is that, unlike in the situation with Ripple, where I think exchanges were trying to appease regulators, I think they realized, and so therefore, when that case was, when they filed suit against Ripple, everybody delisted Ripple, right? Because they were trying to appease the regulator, and I think they're not trying to appease them anymore, because they realize it doesn't really matter what you do; they're going to sue you anyway. So Coinbase isn't delisting any of these coins. No exchanges aren't delisting these coins. So it might not really matter. I mean, if the case isn't settled until after a bull market's over, is it going to matter if they don't delist it and it still has access to liquidity? Maybe not.
True. Cool, guys. Any final words before we wrap it up?
I think that's it, man. I mean, we're going to be doing this once a week. Z, I think you're going to be uploading this on YouTube as well, maybe with some visuals about stuff that we talked about. And hopefully we'll be able to do this consistently.
To summarize, don't mint anything new. Buy the good shit. And long the top.
And pump our backs also.
Yeah.
Don't forget that. That's very important. And no financial advice.
Yeah, NFA.
Cool, guys. So I guess, we'll have quite an interesting week ahead of us. And we're going to talk soon.
All right. See you later. See you later, guys.
See you guys.